concepts, on their own, can be difficult to communicate. How do you illustrate something like time passing? Well, in English, we tend to visually represent time as going left to right, and that makes sense to us. English is written left to right, so left things are earlier in time. But time doesn't actually go left to right. And when we talk about time, we talk about it like we're moving forwards towards the future, with our backs to the past. We use phrases like, in the days ahead, and putting the past behind us. We can also talk about time as moving towards us. You can say, my birthday's approaching, or the time for this has come and gone. Of course, time doesn't actually move towards us, and we can't physically move in time. But thinking and speaking of time in the terms of movement helps us to communicate and think about it. According to a theory set out by Lakoff and Johnson, this is an example of a conceptual metaphor. Conceptual metaphors help us understand and discuss abstract concepts by putting them into the framework of concrete experiences. For example, we sometimes talk about our brains as machines, saying things like, I'm a bit rusty, or brain.exe has stopped responding. Or we talk about ideas as food. Chewing something over is considering it, swallowing an idea is accepting it, and digesting is fully understanding it. Multiple metaphors can apply to a single concept. Along with spatial movement, we can talk about time like it's a resource that we can spend and waste. And different metaphors are used in different contexts. Visually, we can represent time as going left to right, but in speech it would be weird to say left week. Conceptual metaphors often vary across cultures, because people will use the frameworks of different experiences. For example, in Mandarin Chinese, time goes up to down. Next week is down week, and last week is up week. This is probably partially because Chinese was traditionally written up to down. It could also have been influenced by the importance of the Yangtze, creating an idea of time flowing downwards, like a river. In Aymara and Malagasy, people move backwards through time, with the past in front where you can see it, and the unknown future behind. These languages aren't related, but they do both have evidentiality. If you're talking about an action, you have to include whether you personally witnessed it. And with this emphasis of seeing past events, it makes sense that your past would be thought of as visible. But then again, Maori also has the past in front and the future behind, and that doesn't have evidentiality. There, it might be to do with a cultural concept of time being cyclical. Time doesn't even have to move relative to the speaker. In Yupno, spoken in Papua New Guinea, time is mapped onto the topography of the local river, with the future uphill and the past downhill, no matter the orientation of the speaker. Now, I want to figure out what direction the people of Elush would conceptualise time in. To do that, I need to think of some relevant cultural experiences. I've mentioned before that the Elush occasionally tear down and rebuild their houses. Over time, lots of layers will build up, creating an artificial hill where the latest in habitation is always on top. In real life, these are known as tells. And the Elush bury their dead underneath their houses, so the people of the past are very literally underneath them. And I'd already decided that the Elush sometimes think of their life as like a house, with different aspects being like different rooms, and that fits pretty well with this. So they're going to conceptualise the past as beneath them, and so logically the future is above, and they must be moving upwards towards it. Okay, so how's this going to affect their language? We can start off with simple things, like 10 days down meaning 10 days ago, and 10 days up meaning in 10 days. Events are shallow if they're recent, deep if they were a while ago. In English we say a long time, but the Elush would probably say a tall time, because time for them is vertical. They talk about looking down at memories and up at future events. Let's get a bit deeper into the house metaphor. Elush people know that their houses are built on many layers, so maybe they'll think of different periods of time as layers. And maybe these can be divided into upper and lower portions, so the Elush might say things like upper childhood or lower summer. They also have a phrase that sounds like burying your past, but it has a very different meaning than in English. You bury your past not to hide it, but so that you can keep building on top of it. But it seems weird to use a house for short time spans, especially less than a day. So instead, they'll sometimes use the metaphor of a container, because containers are filled from the bottom to the top. They say things like, "the day's still empty," or "this journey's half full." And containers can overflow, so maybe something overflowing means that it's going on longer than expected. And plants grow upwards, so how about a plant metaphor? The start of something can be the root, the middle can be the stem, and the end result can be the flower. And the Elush believe in prophecies, so maybe they'll conceptualize fate like a plant. People are like seeds that have a certain way they're destined to grow, but that isn't always obvious even once they've started, and the environment can impact how and even if they grow up into the future. Things like these that incorporate culture are my favourite part of conlanging, but also a difficult part, at least for me. The conceptual metaphors of English are so deeply embedded in my mind that it's difficult to think around them. Still, I hope you enjoyed exploring the topic with me, and this video is almost full now, so see you next one up!